in teaching us the aforementioned benefits or importances, or in providing us the aforementioned benefits or importances, logic as a subject matter deals about arguments. So what does it mean, arguments? Actually, we can define argument as a group of statements, some of which provide evidence in justifying the other. Or we can say that an argument is a group of statements, one or more of which, or more of these statements called premises, and are meant to support or provide a reason for the other statement, that is a conclusion. Conception of an argument in logic is different from the other one, because argument in logic should fulfill hereunder indicated elements. The first element is statements. So argument should consist of statements. Actually, statements are declarative sentences, or sentences that can be said true or false, or has a truth value. And secondly, argument should have a premise, or since we have said that it's a group of statements, from those statements there should have a premise which provide evidence or justification or proof for the third element, which is the conclusion, or our very claim. And there should be, at the fourth element, there should be an inferential claim or an inference. That means there should be a logical connection between premise and conclusion. Any passage or any writings that may not have even one element from those aforementioned concepts is not categorized as arguments. So a statement is a declarative sentence that has a truth value. That means it is a sentence that can be said true or false. So either true or false. For example, if you say the sky is blue, we can say true or false. Cats are reptiles, we can say true or false. And these are statements because they can be evaluated for their truth value. However, not all sentences qualify as statements. Here, all statements can be a sentence, but it's not true for the reverse. That means not all sentences qualify as statements, because there are several sentences which are not statement. For example, question. If we say that what time is it, we cannot say it true or false. Let's go to the park. It's actually a proposal, so we can say it true or false. If we say that, wow, this is actually exclamation, so we can say it true or false. So these are sentences which are not statements. That's why we said that not all sentences qualify as statements. So they cannot be used to form an argument, or we can't form an argument by using here and above indicated sentences, because argument should be constructed only by statements. Here you should note that all arguments are not the same. Arguments can be classified as good or bad, depending on the evidence that they have. So a good argument has a premise that genuinely supports the conclusion, while if the premise is not genuinely support the conclusion, there is a bad argument. Consider here under indicated example. For example, if we say that all cats are animals, my neighbor has a cat, therefore my neighbor is a good person. Here you can see that the premise do not adequately support the conclusion. The premises are not about whether my neighbor is a good person or not. Rather, it's about my neighbor's cat. However, I am concluding that my neighbor is a good person. So the relationship that exists between premise and conclusion is somewhat weak. That's why we said that it is a bad argument. So when we define arguments, we have said that argument is a group of statements, some of which is a premise, and there should be a conclusion within it. So how can we identify premise and the conclusion? This is actually the basic question that we should have to ask. How can we identify premise and conclusion within the argument? There are two helpful methods for looking premise and conclusion within the argument. One helpful method is looking for indicator words. In an argument, there are certain premise and conclusion indicator words. For example, words like therefore, thus, consequently, hence, the result are among conclusion indicator words. So for a conclusion, we often see words like therefore, thus, or consequently. For example, if we say that humans are mortal, Socrates is human, and therefore Socrates is mortal, here the word therefore is conclusion indicator. So the statement that comes immediately after this conclusion indicator word is a conclusion. That is, Socrates is mortal. So the remaining statements are premises. This one is premise 1 and this one is premise 2. Similarly, for premises, we should have to look for premise indicator words like because, since, given that, and other premise indicator words which are listed in your text. For example, we can say that, or we can put here under indicator example, you should stay harder for your exams because good grade lead to better opportunities. Here we said that because is premise indicator. So in this case, here it is because, and a statement that comes immediately after this premise indicator word is a premise. That means good grade lead to us a better opportunity. But here, what if there are no indicator words within the argument? If there is indicator words, we can simply identifying premise and conclusion within the argument. However, what if there are no indicator words within the argument? In such cases, we should have to ask ourselves questions like, what is the main point of the passage? And what is the arguer trying to prove in this passage? So by asking these questions, we can identify premise and conclusion in this argument. For example, look this passage. The government should invest more in renewable energy. Pollution is rising and fossil fuels are running out. If you find this passage and ask it for identifying premise and conclusion, you should have to ask here under indicated questions, what is the main point of the passage? And what is the arguer trying to prove? The main point of the passage is the government should invest in renewable energy. Because the other statement, that means pollution is rising and fossil fuels are running out, are statements to justify why the government should invest more in renewable energy. In conclusion, understanding arguments may involve recognizing the structure of premise and conclusion. So by sharpening our skills in identifying and evaluating arguments, ultimately we can enhance our reasoning abilities. Thanks for joining me today. And if you find this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content on logic and critical thinking.